Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, what's the future of the Internet of Things in Indiana? Nominees are named for the Mira Awards, celebrating the best in tech. Cummins marks 100 years. A Purdue startup launches an app to detect concussions. The International School of Indiana has a new head of school. The Pacers unveil nothing but knit. And our panel of insiders weighs in on the week's top stories. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Andy Ober. The Indiana IoT Lab in Fishers is not even a year old, and it's practically at capacity, housing 17 companies along with freelancers and individual members. Its founder says the success reflects the growth of the Internet of Things industry in Indiana. John Wexler joined Inside Indiana Business host Gary Dick to talk all things IoT.
All right, let's start off. Coming up on 1 year next month, doesn't seem like it, but 1 year since the IoT Lab opened in Fishers. If you had to put a headline or give one big takeaway to this first year, what would it be?
Gary, first of all, thanks for having me. I would say that Indiana has a real opportunity here to lead in the next generation of the economy that we see developing here. If you look at our traditional strengths of making things, moving things, and growing things, manufacturing, distribution, and ag, all of that is going to be radically transformed in the coming decades by infusing internet-based technologies, IoT, Internet of Things, into those traditional industries. We really have a unique opportunity here to lead in the future.
For those who don't know, and many don't, what is, in a sense, what is IoT, and how big of an industry can this be?
Great question. It's first of all, John McDonald at Clear Object calls it the Internet of Everything, right? And it's basically the biggest thing since anything. And if you look at Nest thermostats and Alexa and Fitbit, self-driving vehicles, all of those use IoT technologies at their core, 5G technologies and the sensors and controls that make all that go. That is the Internet of Things, which is going to touch basically every part of our lives. Forecast to be about a $3 trillion industry in the mid-2020s. This is a huge part of our economy going forward.
17 companies already have operations at the IoT Lab Clear Object. Novel Bits, IU has a big presence there, a number of diverse companies and organizations. Talk about what goes on there, because you have a lot of different moving parts at the lab.
And that is what's so exciting to me, is to see Indiana University come into the mix, and Allegiant and Comcast, the city of Fishers basically stepping up with Mayor Fadness signing up to be the first municipally funded IoT lab in the country. We bring all those stakeholders together to focus on some research, but also product development. So it's a place where someone can come with an idea, and we can take that idea forward into a prototype or a rough minimum viable product to take out to the market to try to fund and create a company out of that.
How about connectivity? This is not just a central Indiana thing. There are really connections being made around the state. Talk about the potential for this really becoming a statewide initiative.
That's very encouraging to me. We see across all parts of the state really unique opportunities to capitalize on our traditional strengths in industry. So whether you're talking about materials in the Evansville area, or batteries where the BIC and Crane is headquartered, or healthcare up in Fort Wayne, ag in the Heartland area with Purdue, and then right here in Indianapolis at 16 Tech, I would expect there will be some really cool things happening. But each of these communities has a unique opportunity to capitalize on their traditional strengths, but then add Internet of Things into those industries, and that's what's going to make it special as we come together.
Yeah, and you talk about the State of IoT, the inaugural State of IoT report is about to be released, will be released. Here it is next month. What can we expect to come out of this report?
Well, there's a ton on the breadth of what we have available in our state. And when you look at organizations coming together to issue the first of its kind, we have a website called the State of IoT. We're capitalizing on not only telling the story of the state of IoT in our communities, but we want Indiana to be known as the state of IoT. Yeah. So, I think we do a really good job in this report of reporting some statistics, but also some really good stories about where we think this is going to lead.
Final, only have 20 seconds, but this first year of the IoT Lab, does it give you confidence that Indiana will embrace this? Because sometimes we as a state tend to be a little slow to do these things. Does this give you encouragement that can happen?
It does, and I think it's really vital to our long-term success here. If you look at communities throughout the state that are looking for strategies to continue to attract their best and brightest, I think the innovation economy really provides that. So when you look at entrepreneurship as the core of a thriving community, I think IoT provides a great opportunity.
All right, John Wexler, IoT Lab, 1 year, big report coming out next month. Thanks as always.
Thanks, Gary.
All right.
Still to come, Cummins celebrates a century and a Purdue startup shines a light on concussions. But first, nominees are out as Indiana's tech initiative prepares for the Mira Awards, celebrating the best in tech. And Westfield moves forward on a major development. Host Gary Dick and field reporter Mary Rachel Redman have more on those stories.
Well, the nominees for the 20th annual Mira Awards are out. TechPoint says those nominees, compiled from a list of nearly 110 companies, organizations, and individuals, will be announced April 13 in front of a sellout crowd of 1,300 at the JW Marriott in downtown Indianapolis. Indianapolis-based Viral Launch is nominated for 2 Mira Awards, and its CEO, Casey Goss, is nominated for the Rising Entrepreneur Award. In an interview with Inside Indiana Business, he talked about what the nominations mean for him and his company.
TechPoint does a great job of calling attention to some of the great things that are happening in Indianapolis tech, and so to be recognized as part of that is really cool. You know, we've had some amazing growth. Last year we grew 150%, and more than doubled our team. And so, amidst kind of all of the craziness that comes with that kind of scaling, it's really cool to be recognized in the areas that we have been.
And of course, Inside Indiana Business will be behind the scenes interviewing all of the winners at the 20th Annual Mira Awards. Stay tuned to see that in April. Well, the city of Westfield has unveiled a $37 million plan to fund its massive redevelopment project, Grand Junction Plaza. The new park is part of a big push by Mayor Andy Cook and city leaders to create a more vibrant downtown. Our Mary Rachel Redman has more from Westfield.
The dream of creating a dynamic downtown in Westfield has been over a decade in the making.
When we first turned into a city, one of the aspects that came out is this city would eventually like to have a vibrant destination gathering place downtown.
And the heart of that vibrant downtown gathering place is Grand Junction Plaza, a proposed $37 million redevelopment project that, if approved, will anchor the east side of the city and ultimately serve as a place where people can connect through festivals, markets, and other events throughout the year.
Not only do we need a very unique and special gathering place for our people, but also for our million or so visitors that come through our city who are looking for local Westfield. If you really want to taste and touch and feel what is to be local, downtown is going to be the place you'll want to go.
Grand Junction was designed by David Rubin of Philadelphia-based David Rubin Land Collective.
They are going to be embraced by signature architecture and signage and wayfinding that is designed by internationally renowned companies, all of whom have collaborated with us and with the city to create a unique experience that is like no other in the world. This is going to be the signature space. Westfield will be identified for it, and it will have extraordinary impact well beyond the borders of this town, the borders of this state, and the borders of this region.
As mayors today, it is our job to do so much more than fill potholes and pick up trash. We have to create unique places in an entire city so that people will be attracted here, and we can keep a hold of our young ones that tend to flock to some other of the larger cities. Because without these young people and a broad spectrum of residents, then and only then can we further attract businesses that will add to our tax base.
The Westfield City Council is expected to vote on the funding plan later this month. If passed, plaza construction on the land you see behind me will begin this summer and end sometime in 2021. Reporting in Westfield, Mary Rachel Redman, Inside Indiana Business.
Later in the podcast, a new weapon in the battle against concussions and a history-making head of school at the International School. But now, Cummins is celebrating its 100th year as a company throughout 2019. From humble beginnings, it has grown to a Fortune 150 company, employing around 60,000 people with customers around the world. Chief Administrative Officer Mira Awards came in studio to talk about the milestone and more.
It started from humble roots, 100 years ago, Clessie Cummins, a driver that for the family that just came up with this idea, the father of the American truck diesel engine. Right?
Indeed. So Cummins took the engine that Rudolph Diesel developed and made it better. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to be successful, and we're continuing to be successful. Yeah. I think the point is, though, that we're not just a diesel engine manufacturer based in Columbus, Indiana anymore. Mm-hmm. We're a global powertrain leader. Mm-hmm. So we have product everywhere. 7 out of 10 trucks on the road have a Cummins engine in them. We make engines for construction equipment, agriculture. We make engines for pickup trucks, delivery trucks. We make standby and prime power. So if you think about standby power, we're in hospitals. We are in iconic landmarks like the Statue of Liberty. And in Indiana, we are at Hinkle Fieldhouse and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah. And you are an engine company, but really, you're a technology company.
That's right. We are a technology company. Yeah. So we innovated the diesel engine, and we're continuing to innovate for our customers. Mm-hmm. So our customers don't need the right application for their products at the right time. So if you think about those applications, sometimes it's a clean diesel engine, sometimes it's a natural gas engine, sometimes it's a hybrid, and we are now getting ready to release an electrified powertrain in commercial buses at the end of this year. Wow. We're also investing in things like hydrogen fuel cell technology. So that's going to take us even further as we hit the next 100 years.
And you are coming off a record 2018.
Yes, we are indeed.
Yeah, what drove that?
Well, for us, when the North American truck market is up, it's up. But we also had a great year in power generation. Our distribution business is booming. Our components business is doing great. So all really 4 segments are doing well. And then our new segment, electrification, also hit its marks as well.
Key to continued success is talent, is keeping talent, but also attracting talent here. That's a challenge for everyone. Your headquarters in Columbus, you've got a new facility, relatively new facility in Indianapolis. How's the talent equation?
Well, Indiana is a great place for us to do business. So we have about 10,000 employees in Indianapolis. They're really strung between the Indianapolis all the way to Seymour. We've got about 450 employees in Indianapolis now. That building is full. But it's the kind of place where we want to be able to keep attracting and retaining talent in Indiana. One of those for us is key to making our employees feel welcome. Yeah. And not just our employees, but all Hoosiers.
We'll talk about that because Cummins is very adamant, among other companies as well, supporting hate crimes legislation at the State House. Why is Cummins so out front on this legislation?
Well, it's about inclusion. It's about people feeling included, people feeling like they're valued, making sure that Indiana is a welcoming place for people to want to work. So we want to bring talent to Indiana. We want them to come here, and we don't want anything to stand in our way. Yeah. So right now, the General Assembly is hearing legislation on hate crimes. We are very encouraged by what we're hearing and what we hope can happen.
All right. Mira Awards is the Chief Administrative Officer at Cummins. Thank you for talking about the last 100, but also what's next.
Thanks very much for having me.
All right.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, the new leader of the International School of Indiana comes with an interesting background, and the Pacers begin prep for the 2021 All-Star Weekend in Indy. But first, Purdue-affiliated startup BrightLamp has launched an app that lets a smartphone user quickly record data that can help determine if they've suffered a concussion. Reflex takes a digital video of a user's eye response to send to trainers or other medical professionals for analysis. BrightLamp CEO Curtis Sluss joined Kylie Valletta in the Business of Health.
You've been working on this since you were an undergrad at Purdue, so congratulations on releasing the app.
3 long years.
Yes.
Yeah.
So give us an overview of how it works.
Sure. To make it as simple as possible for medical professionals to utilize, all you have to do is open up the app on the phone, input some subject information, hold the phone up to the person's eye, initiate a test, and then you're done. It usually takes about 5 seconds. We record those results into the screen and the data log, and you have access to it forever.
And the data is measuring the pupils, sort of how the pupil moves or responds to that light?
Yeah, we're measuring something called the pupillary light reflex, which is a fancy way of saying you walk into a bright room and your pupils constrict. We utilize that as a quantitative tool to be able to correlate different diseases, ailments, or issues with the brain.
So this focus on concussions, the app is designed for medical professionals to use it, which is a big umbrella. So give us an idea of who your users are right now and how they're using it.
Sure, our primary target is athletic trainers, sports medicine doctors, neurologists, but what we've seen is a large uptake for the clinical research community. It is a growing field, and a lot of publications have been coming out here recently and clinical trials. So clinical researchers have latched on, and they make up a majority of our user base at the moment.
So the app can be used in the field. It can send the data to a doctor who can determine if there was a concussion. But your ultimate goal takes that a step further. Tell us about where you hope to end up.
Sure. The big idea, the big vision is that we can democratize these test cases for parents or just a lay individual that can undergo diagnostic tests on their mobile device. So the idea would be that a parent would be able to test individuals like their children for concussions down the road. That's our big goal. That's our like three-year goal, right? So right now we're strictly the acquisition tool, but we're using that data to be able to build that product.
Or an athletic trainer on the sideline.
Yeah, exactly. Athletic trainers and coaches, because not every school has an athletic trainer. So coaches will be able to utilize that as well.
You have another app in the pipeline called Tipsy, which is an interesting one, and some others more medically focused. Mm-hmm. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so Tipsy, we like to say it's a breathalyzer for your eye. So the idea is that you can correlate the amount of alcohol in somebody's system to the pupillary light reflex. That's an important piece of information because A, we can keep people safe, and then in addition to that, we can not have you have these other pieces of hardware in your pocket. Those other medical device products, I mean, we're focused on glaucoma, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease. We're even probably picking up some autism research here relatively soon. So we have both products in both categories.
And all of these connected to the eye.
Yeah, all of it.
It's fascinating. Tell us what role Purdue has had in helping you build your company.
Sure, Purdue's played a very important role. So being a young entrepreneur at Purdue University while still being an undergrad, guidance is needed in order to start a business and grow. Starting a business is relatively straightforward, but doing it correctly is kind of difficult. So the foundry and the associates there, they're the individuals that help guide and coach me to be able to build the company.
Okay, and you're developing this app for concussions right now. Why did you choose concussions to start with? Why make that your first target?
Yeah, it's a great question. That's how the idea became incepted, right? We were watching the news breaking about the NFL and concussions relating to it, and we walked through the patient journey, and every time somebody gets their bell rung, the number one thing they check is their eyes. And so it was simple from there to begin conceptualizing a product, and we stuck with that primary goal because we believe it's an admirable goal, but it's also a very underserved market.
And just a few seconds left, give us an idea where you are in fundraising.
Yeah, sure. We actually just kicked off our seed round, and we're currently working towards filling that out and closing.
All right. Well, congratulations again on releasing the app, and hopefully someday we will be using it on the sideline.
Yeah, thank you.
Later in the podcast, the Pacers unveil nothing but knit, and our insiders weigh in on the week's top stories. But now, the International School of Indiana has named Elizabeth Head its third head of school and the first female head in its 25-year history. She comes to Indianapolis by way of Costa Rica. Head talked about her path and her vision in our Eye on Education segment.
I have to ask you, because you came to Indiana, or coming to Indiana from Costa Rica, so a little climate change. What attracted you to the job?
Climate change. What attracted me to the job was ISI and what the International School is doing for Indianapolis. That's what made this such an exciting place, because of what ISI and the students are giving back to the city with their language immersion program, with the full IB continuum, and then all they can offer to the workforce here in Indianapolis is powerful, as well as attracting talent from around the world and around the U.S. to come to Indianapolis. So it's a great talent recruitment piece, and that's what excited me about coming, even with my own children.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think many people in Indianapolis and in Indiana know of the International School, but I don't think that many people know the impact and the importance and the connection it has to business attraction, talent attraction. Talk about some of the programs and how how the school really is interrelated with the business community.
Right. Well, what's key is that it was founded on the sole motivation 25 years ago of attracting talent to Indianapolis so that companies would have a place to relocate, put their children, have their children feel comfortable, integrated in full language immersion. They can study Mandarin, Spanish, and French in full immersion throughout all of their schooling. They can do full IB continuum. Doors are open around the world to study for university and beyond. But then it's attracting all of these companies to Indianapolis to make it really a hub for internationalism. And then the product of what ISI is doing, then they send that back into Indianapolis to feed into these companies that need this type of talent. It's unique. It's the only school in Indianapolis and Indiana doing it, the only school in the Midwest doing this.
And that's why I wanted to follow up with you in terms of the uniqueness. So this really, in your view, is an asset to the world of education, but to the business community, really.
It's necessary for the business community, especially if Indianapolis wants to continue to grow in internationalism, because without a school like this, then companies won't see Indianapolis as such an attractive asset for their company to move into. So then they see, oh, not only will the company come, but the families will have a positive experience. Their children will grow in ways that they can go back to Indiana or around the world with no issues at all. Great university acceptances, great scholarship money, because they're in the best academic program, not only in Indiana, but what's known around the world as the best academic program. So it works both for the family and for the company to make Indianapolis a great place to come.
What's next? Talk about your vision. 25 years, the International School of Indiana. What's next? What do you want to accomplish?
Well, that's what's really exciting. There are two key things that we want to accomplish on the short term and the midterm. But first of all, we want to communicate and remind Indiana why ISI was even founded 25 years ago. And that was precisely to benefit the business community in Indianapolis. So number one is just communicating the vision of what ISI has done so well, all of the graduation results, the language, all of the academics, and then all they give back to the city. So reminding Indianapolis of the asset that ISI is. And number two, we're in the process of a silent phase of capital campaigning. So we see building a lower school campus on our current upper school campus as a new investment for the city, because it's giving back into the city for what the city has wanted for business development. So we're in the process of building a lower school campus.
A lot going on at the International School of Indiana, and Elizabeth Head, congratulations on the new role. Welcome to Indiana.
Thank you.
We look forward to doing more stories in the future as well.
Excellent. Thanks so much.
right.
It's great to be here.
Still to come, perspective on the top business stories of the week from our panel of insiders. But first, NBA All-Star Weekend just wrapped up in Charlotte. In 2021, it's coming to Indianapolis, and the local organizing committee has announced the first community-wide initiative leading up to the event, Nothing But Knit. Pacer Sports and Entertainment President Rick Fusen joined us with more.
Everybody knows what nothing but net means. It's a swish, right?
Right.
Well, our folks have come up with this great thing called Nothing But Knit. And so what we're going to do is make beanies for All-Stars. And so we're going to make about 5,000 of these.
Yeah.
And we're going to give these kits. I want you to have the kit right here that you can take home, and you can do it in your spare time. But we'll have those all across Indiana. This is really an Indiana initiative, and we want people to join us in Indianapolis on so many different ways.
Yeah, we do harken back to 2012 in the Super Bowl, and those scarves, such a big hit. This really is a different spin, if you will, on that, and a way to get non-traditional people and volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, it is February.
Yep.
We love our weather,
Yep.
And so we're going to embrace it. And so think about somebody knitting one of these. It might go to the coach, or might go to Commissioner Silver, or might go to one of the actual All-Stars. So it's really going to be an exciting opportunity. We're taking another delegation to Charlotte to look at the All-Star game again, to make sure that we see every opportunity. And then it's us, just two years from now. So it's really, I think, a great opportunity for us to spread the word around the state.
You're heading out to Charlotte, as you said, to go to the NBA All-Star game this weekend. What do you hope to learn? Charlotte's a similar-sized market. Do you hope to learn a lot out there?
Well, I think, last year we were in L.A. We've seen it in Las Vegas. We've seen it in a number of bigger cities in terms of population. But seeing it in Charlotte is a little bit more toward the size of us, although I don't believe Charlotte has the same kind of downtown, certainly, that we do. And I think that's going to be a major player, with us, with the new hotels going up, et cetera. So it's going to be a great opportunity for us. And really, the economic development, we like to see that. We like to see what companies come to us, because the economic development is estimated to be over $100 million for the All-Star Game alone, and that really equates into lots of jobs. The Pacers, we just did some economic impact studies, and we're over about $370 million a year annually in terms of economic impact, 4,000 jobs, and that shows again, I think, that these sports activities and teams really lead to economic development.
The NBA All-Star Game last in Indianapolis in 1985. I remember it. I was there, an old timer. But a lot has changed, not only in the game itself and the activities, but in the hosting of the game and the activities around it.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I got hired in 1984 by the Pacers, and that first job I had was to represent the Pacers for the All-Star Game in '85. 40,000 some odd people at the Dome then, and it was just about a few events. The game certainly was the centerpiece, and we had the All-Star Saturday, et cetera, but we didn't have that many parties. There weren't as many media. We had 3,000 media coming in for this event. So it's exponentially bigger.
Can we expect more announcements as the game gets closer?
You will see a lot of announcements from us. We want this to be the best All-Star ever. We want it to be right for the NBA, right for the game of basketball, right for Indianapolis, and right for the state. So you're going to see a lot of different things as we reach out all across the state to make sure that all 92 counties touch this All-Star game.
And finally, our insiders weigh in on Indiana's top business stories. This week's panel includes education expert Robert Herzog, Indy Chamber Chief Economic Development Officer Maureen Krause, and Gregory and Appel Insurance Vice President Steve Appel.
Maureen, I will start with you. In the world of tourism, it is big business, certainly in Indianapolis and in parts of the state. Interesting this week, a bill that was introduced at the Indiana State House that would create essentially a new Office of Tourism. Currently, the Office of Tourism Development, they would create the Indiana Destination Development Corporation, public-private partnership.
So that's important because it really puts together the two key factors to strengthen this industry, to encourage more growth, and really to make it truly statewide. We've seen the benefit of Visit Indy, what it's done for the tourism economy in the Indianapolis region. But think about the whole state and how this could really positively impact communities of all sizes to grow something unique that they have that people want to be a part of.
What I think is interesting too is Indiana, for whatever, has not funded tourism from a government level, from a state level at all, certainly when you compare it to other states.
Yeah, and hopefully this is a statement, right, to everybody in the state, double entendre there, to make some sort of commitment and start to really, put that higher on the priority for everybody even outside of Indianapolis to really make that happen.
It's a sector of the economy like agriculture, like motorsports, like advanced manufacturing.
Do you have a sense, because the legislature has been resistant to fund tourism in the past, do you have a sense how far this will go? Will it happen?
We are very hopeful that it does go all the way through, because I think as communities look at diversifying their economy and adding something new, this supports that in a great way.
Gotcha. Very important issue, obviously, education in the state of Indiana. Teacher compensation is certainly a hot button issue at the Indiana State House. Steve, this week Governor Holcomb announced members of a new next level teacher compensation commission to kind of get at this whole issue of teacher compensation and how to solve the challenge.
I think there's just a big issue of how to treat, train, and retain teachers, and obviously pay and trying to attract top people to go into the space. And so it's a great topic. It's being looked at. I know we're going to talk about let Robert touch on is the lack of teachers that are on the commission, but hopefully that'll be something that can be addressed to continue that important area.
Yeah, Robert, this is your world, education. As you look at the challenge that Indiana is facing with teacher pay, it can't be, Indiana's not alone in the country facing that issue.
No, although we're lower on the totem pole than a lot of other states and others that we're competing with teachers on. So it's one of the things that has been really positive that the governor has put together this commission. It is I think has been in the last 24 hours a small detractor about who's been on it, but it is the right step, and it is a creative and signifying event that says we need to look at this, and we really need to look at creatively across the education landscape at K-12 here. It's a blue ribbon committee, right? A lot of smart people to look at creative ways to figure out how we can make that work, because it's very important in teacher pay across the United States. Right. You've seen this like in Denver. There's a lot of unionized activity that's going on to really raise those wages. So I think they're doing the right thing, getting out in front of that, being proactive to find ways to work with the school board and other leaders throughout the state to really make it happen.
All right, shifting gears, communities all over the state of Indiana are creating major major live, work, play developments, redevelopment projects focused on downtown. Certainly Westfield is one of those cities this week unveiling plans. Actually, it's been 12 years in the works, but a funding plan for Grand Junction Plaza, which is a $37 million project, really a big project in that community. Mayor Andy Cook says it is a key to the vibrancy of that downtown.
I think it's that sense of place and identity that's so important for communities to have. And people, I mean, first of all, Westfield attracts so many people with sports. Yeah. They want somewhere to go after, so why not embrace that in your own community?
Just the mayor has, the Grand Park's been huge for bringing in national tournaments and things like that. The mayor had the funny line of, we have to do much more than what is it?
Filling potholes
and picking up trash. And I just, living in Indianapolis right now, the pothole issue maybe hasn't hit Westfield, but that's very important still.
And isn't it amazing? You look at Hamilton County, you look at Westfield, at Fishers, at Carmel, at Noblesville. A lot of activity going on in all those communities when you look at their downtowns.
And it's just the next step, right? And I think that was maybe the side of what he was trying to focus on with his statement is this is the next piece of what the overall strategy for Westfield needs to be, and it is a good one. It balances work-life play, and they need you need to create more people
helps
who can live
with talent
there.
attraction.
Exactly.
It's that place.
When you come, let's shift gears, come to Indianapolis, Maureen, I'll give you a chance to kind of tout some big numbers, right? The Indy Chamber in 2018, some big economic development and investment numbers.
So our regional economic partnership, which is the city and the 9-county donut counties, last year had the best year in its 20-year history, $2.5 billion in investment and over 10,000 new jobs. That involves all of our communities, heavy on manufacturing and technology. So we're very excited to see everyone benefiting in this region, showing that economies are in fact regional, but the best year since we started keeping records.
Good numbers, and we talk about regionalism. It was a regional effort that went after Amazon and the HQ2 project, and some interesting news this week. And I know you were very much involved in that process. Indy made the top 20 list, the final 20. New York City and suburban Virginia selected for those two. And this late in the week, we hear that Amazon is pulling out, not going to go to New York City.
You know, we've heard anecdotally before, companies want to be where communities want them. There's a really strong connection there. And when you don't have the vibe at the get-go that you're welcome, I think one of the things that's so strong about our region is we are very welcoming. From any person you meet in a business, a retail operation, we just are a very welcoming place. And we know that they know that as well. So we'll see what happens.
What do you think? Because the Amazon statement said they're not going to open up the search at this point or right now. I mean, do you think that cities like Indianapolis would be back in the mix or could be back in the mix?
You know, this didn't go exactly how most people thought it would go with New York. I mean, we don't compete against New York anyway. They know that we would talk to them again. We've continued the dialogue.
And it would be a completely different experience for them dealing with Indianapolis, to your point, than New York. I mean, let's face it, they're pulling out, they've faced nothing but heat in New York since that announcement. And they're just not getting...
They would feel very welcome here.
Yes.
In terms of corporate relocations on perhaps a smaller scale. But a major announcement this week, Brownability, the Pulaski County-based company, real Indiana success story, has been up there for years, announced this week it would move its global headquarters from northern Indiana and Winamac, move it to Carmel, corporate headquarters, as well as an R&D center. Keep manufacturing up north. Steve, as you looked at that announcement, when I saw it, the first thing I thought about was it was a talent move, and that their CEO actually confirmed that.
I have driven by their Winamac plant, and there's a very, very small town, which is great, and it's a super company in what they do and their mission and their services. But I think as they continue to grow and want to attract talent, it makes a lot of sense to be in Carmel for that headquarters and keeping the manufacturing up north.
Yep, great young company. Again, exactly that right. Talent plus just the the ability to be able to in and out of Indianapolis is so much easier to travel. I think it's a big win for Carmel and Central Indiana.
And a win for both because they keep the manufacturing up north and say they're going to add jobs up there too. So.
Which is great. Retention is the foundation of any economic development program. So they've been retained and they will grow here. And that's where you have to start before you do all the bells and whistles part.
Yeah, well, I want to touch quickly a number of job training initiatives announced this week. Anderson, the mayor there, talking about a job training program, a new job center opening up in Rush County. The Rush to Work is a job center there. Vincennes and GM forming a partnership down in Bedford as well. Interesting at how these lots of folks are getting their arms around that whole issue.
You know, they don't get these kind of jobs, unfortunately, don't get a lot of press. They're high paying, you know, they meet those median, I talk about every time I'm on here, right? We have to increase median wages across Indiana. These are the kind of jobs that do that. Getting those training pathways opened are phenomenal.
Okay, we wrap up on sports as we usually do. The Pacers Sports and Entertainment out this week with Nothing But Knit, which is the first community initiative in advance of the 2021 NBA All-Star Game. Take off on the scarves we had for the Super Bowl.
I saw Rick with all of his wear.
It was.
I just love it. It shows that sense of community. Nothing else. I love it.
The Super Bowl thing, remember, people were knitting from all over the country, so it'll be interesting to see if it picks up the same juice for the NBA All-Star.
Yeah, Indy always does a great job hosting big-time events. Usually they do something different and unique. Robert, 20 seconds left. Is Indy going to pull some surprise? I'm sure they're going to do a great job hosting it, but what do you expect?
My God. I mean, just in and of itself, starting with the knitting, there's definitely going to be more surprises. Can't wait. And they've started well enough in advance, 2 years out. Going to be a great event.
And that group led by the Pacers in Charlotte this weekend for the All-Star Weekend to get some tips, although I think Indy could probably give them a few tips as well. Robert Herzog, Maureen Krause, also Steve Appel. Thank you, one and all.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Andy Ober for Inside Indiana Business.